5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's the fan phone-in, weekly fan phone-in. Where it's wash, rinse, repeat. Luton Town scraped a draw. I think that's the right way to put it, isn't it, Ryman? Luton Town scraped a draw against bottom of the table Port Vale. And with me, as always, I have the wonderful Mark Ryman. How are we getting on, Mark?
I'm all right. Yeah, Scrapes is right. And, you know, I for once, you know how much we enjoy having a bicker on here and disagreeing. I watched your post-match. It wasn't for once I watched your post-match, by the way. But for once, I think I'm going to have to agree with everything. I think we're in total agreement, which is pretty boring for everybody watching and listening. I apologise, but
broken clocks, eh?
Well, quite. I mean, it was utterly ridiculous. Some of the decision making, both from the management team and on the pitch as well. I mean, look, you turn up at a ploughed field, and I mean, God, if anyone watches the ITV2, the big match, then that's the only time you'll see a pitch like that outside of the Conference South. But anyone turning up there and thinking, oh, we need to play all of our 5-foot technical midfield players and start passing the ball around, need their heads checking. I just want to pull two things up. I think there are two things, and I haven't got the quotes in front of me, but so I'll paraphrase it. So I apologise, it's not exactly bang on. But when Jack Wilshere was hired, he said two things. And the first thing that he said is that he didn't have a brand of football or a style of play. He was interested in winning games of football and being adaptable. Well, if there was a time to be adaptable, it was on that pitch, right? Did we see him being adaptable? Not really. He still tried to play the same old football. And the second thing is that he also talked about the idea that we're in League One and we need to accept it. Well, Jack Wilshere, I don't think you have accepted that we're in League One because you are desperate for brand Jack Wilshere football to be recognised in the Championship, regardless of what league and the results that we're getting on the pitch. That's how it feels, at least. Stop trying to play football that just isn't going to work. Look, I accept that we had injuries yesterday and we couldn't play all the players that we would want to. We'd probably want to play Devante Cole there. I get that. That was more of a game for Mads Anderson probably as well. If there ever was a game for Mads Anderson, yesterday was it.
I think Mads was injured though.
Yeah, exactly. So that's fair enough. But I'm sorry, to start Nahki Wells on his own, I know he scored the goal and, you couldn't really miss it, but to start Nahki Wells up front on his own and expect players like Liam Walsh, Jordan Clark to play through the thirds, it boggles the mind. Yes, we got a great goal from playing it down to Lawrence, who had a good sort of half, maybe just over a half of football. And then never did it again. And then waited far too long to make the changes that we needed to. Having a big player like Van der Berg on the pitch, having a bigger player like Al Hamadi on the pitch, and playing off the second balls for me was the obvious thing. It worked for Port Vale. They could have scored 2 or 3 from doing exactly the same thing.
That Hawk, their left winger, was tremendous.
Yeah,
man the match. He was amazing.
They were getting down both wings by the end of the game. But if there was anyone going to score, and it's just the same old story, isn't it? Once they scored, the second half might as well not have. We all might as well packed up at 45 minutes and gone home. There was no interest, or seemingly no interest in trying to do anything different. And that's on the players as well, right? That's not just on Jack Wilshere. I mean, I mentioned the issues that I have, at least with the lineup, but the players working out this not working. How many times does the ball have to bounce off Jordan Clark's foot for him to realise that he can't do tricky little skills and turn 3 players on that pitch? Just play the longer ball. How many times does Izzy Jones have to try and knock it in front of himself to beat a man and it just bobbles out of play for him to stop doing it? It was hard to watch, as it has been a lot this season. So yeah, utterly predictable, I guess. Squandering the lead really against a team that has offered barely anything this whole season. It's just exactly where we are at the moment, I'm afraid, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, on your first point, I I can't question either of the things that you said. On your first point, though, when Jack Wilshere started talking about the type of manager he was going to be, it takes me back. I don't know if you've ever watched How I Met Your Mother, or if any of the people watching. Good evening to everyone watching, by the way. Evening. Loads of comments already. Loads of people watching. Great to have you all along with us. If you've ever watched How I Met Your Mother, when Ted Mosby becomes a college professor, and the voiceover is like, I become a college professor, but I don't know what type of college professor I'm going to be. Like, so he does a bit of, he flits between being really shouty, really disciplined, like, you know, call me Ted. Silence.
Yeah.
No. Hey. Oh, call me Teddy. That's like Jack Wilshere. When he came to the club, he didn't know what type of manager he was going to be. He's sort of making it up as he goes along, sort of like what we're doing at a board level now, you know, with no succession. We'll talk about the 1885 email as well. Like, I imagine everyone has read it, or seen it or heard of it. We'll talk about that a bit later. And we'll go through it. I did actually title this as email number 2, but then I realized I've put it up on Reddit and everyone's read it now. So, no need for us to go through like just point by point on question 2. We can discuss the whole thing. It's also pinned to the top of the chat. But ultimately, from this Port Vale game, look, we've been doing this now 3 years. I'm just
feels longer.
It feels like a bloody eternity. I'm tired, Ryman. I'm just I'm so tired. I'm emotionally, like, football's meant to be an escape. You know, the weekend, the week finishes. You're done with work. I'm just so tired. I'm drained. I hate watching us play football. When we score, it's such a chore to celebrate because we took the lead yesterday. You know what's coming. You know every time. You know what's coming. You know we're going to throw away the lead. You know we're going to fuck it up. You just know, unless we're like several goals ahead, which just doesn't happen anymore. I think the last time I celebrated was when I think I mentioned it before, when we came from 2 goals down against Lincoln. We were 2 goals down. I was celebrating bringing it level. Honestly, I'm tired. It's not just, I told you before, it's not just because my daughter woke me up at 3:30 this morning. I'm drained. I'm drained. This is meant to be the escape. You know, it's meant to be. It's meant to be where you go meet your friends, or you go watch. You watch a team, and they make you feel good because they're actually trying on the pitch. And Naki Wells coming out, he's avoiding eye contacts. And he's the most experienced player in the squad. Where's the leadership? Yeah. Where's the trying to think of the words. Where's the accountability? Where's the accountability? Yeah. It's not there. It's not there. I'm fed up, but I haven't hated a group of players as much as this in a long time. Like probably Blackwell's squad that I hated.
Yeah.
There are one or two that I like. I love Joe Johnson, and he's 100% going to leave. And I don't even think it's the recruitment, to be honest. Like, yeah, there are hits and misses, but look at some of the players we brought in, and they go and they do well at other teams. So maybe it's not the recruitment. Maybe it's just us. Maybe we're just poisoned. We're just a toxic entity right now. And anyone that comes within a 6-foot radius just gets sort of grabbed and consumed and destroyed. That's how it feels right now.
I 100% agree. I'd say on the recruitment front, we definitely recruit good players. The biggest issue I've got with the recruitment is that there's no care or seeming knowledge about what type of player or position we needed to recruit for. We were just too interested in
loads of strikers, loads of wingers,
exactly
uneven squads.
this is the thing. The bit that frustrates me anyway. We could go on forever about the recruitment. It's one of the points on the email that was made. I think it's the last point. In fact, maybe the second to last point is all about recruitment. So maybe we'll get to that. I'm with you. I feel like it's like it's constantly waiting for something that's never happening, right? Like, how long do we have to be patient for? I mean, uh, I've said this many times on this podcast. Being told to be patient as a Luton fan is my biggest pet peeve. We're up there. Whether it's about the stadium or whether it's about our fortunes turning around, it just feels like, when's it? How long can it continuously get worse for? Are we, you know, when's it going to change? So I am completely with you. I'm starting to dread Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock now. Um, I think I saw a comment earlier about having a great day up until the point where you watch the football. It really does feel like that. Yeah, Trunky 123. I had a lovely start to my Saturday. Hi everybody in the chat, by the way. As Ollie said, wow, loads of comments. Great Brentford, enjoyed the sunshine and put to bargain holiday. Then I went and ruined it by watching us drag Port Vale down to our level. Fantastic point. Exactly how I felt. I wasn't going to watch it, and I sort of gave in. In fact, I missed the first 5-10 minutes, so I missed the goal. I was driving home and I heard it on the radio, and I was like, right, okay, fine, I'm sticking it on. I missed the only good 7 minutes in that game by the looks of things, so never mind. But yeah, I'm so done with it. I'm with you completely. The social element is the only reason why people continue to go, but even that's going to change as things become more and more toxic at Kenilworth Road. And if we lose to Northampton on Wednesday, because that is now the only thing surely that 2020 are clinging on to try and mask this as a successful season, or a season that they can try and brand as a successful season. If we lose that game, it's going to be a very difficult last 9-10 games of the season, or whatever's left.
Yeah, it's not cut and dry. Northampton aren't turning up just to be a backdrop for our season turning around. They're turning up because for a club like Northampton, I don't think they've ever won the JPT or the Vans or the Auto Windscreen Shield. They haven't won it. They won silverware, and yeah. They're going to turn up to bloody win that game and get to Wembley. It's massive for them.
Yeah. Listen, we lost to Swindon Town at home comfortably, and we probably could have, maybe should have lost to Forest Green after being 3-0 up. So, yeah, nothing's guaranteed.
Oh, I forgot about Forest Green.
Sorry to remind you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right.
It's just been a disappointing season. A season of almost grabbing defeat from the jaws of victory. There was actually a quote from, Jack Wilshere went to the Uni of Beds and gave a talk, and he was talking about the toxic atmosphere at the game against Burton.
Burton game, yeah.
And the question was, did you expect an atmosphere like that after a loss? Obviously, we didn't lose that game. So Jack Wilshere said he went and talked about and addressed what had been said and stuff like that. And then at the end, he said, but we didn't lose. We drew. It felt like a loss. And going into the Wigan, the Burton, the Port Vale games, I said this in the post-match. Those are games we should have taken maximum points from. Maximum points. Anything less than 9 points, you don't deserve the playoffs. You deserve mid-table mediocrity. Each of those games looked like a relegation 6-pointer, and we looked like the team that were getting relegated. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about accountability. There's no bottle. There's no spine. Sorry, there's no bollocks in this team at all. And do you know what? That's probably why they're so good in training, because there's no accountability. There's no ramifications if things don't go your way. Every time any pressure puts on you, this whole season has been an absolute bottle job from start to finish. Every time we've got within a few points of the playoffs, we go and put in an absolute shocking performance, and it's happened time and time again. We all know that the club would have been aiming for 9 points out of this week, as everybody was, because if you don't win those games, what hope have you got? And as a result, any kind of pressure whatsoever, they collapse. They absolutely collapse. Like a wet cardboard box. It's pathetic, and it's been the narrative all season. And two managers haven't been able to arrest that. And I don't know whether you listened to the Three Counties interview with Jack after the game, which we did. That he's just again and again spouts this idea that, it's a confidence thing. It's a confidence thing. Well, Jack, you're the manager, and all you're telling everybody is you can't do anything about it. He's clearly, he knows what the issue is, and he's made it clear to everybody watching he can't change it. He's not the man to change it.
No, it needs a big character, and one of the small things that I clung to when he came in, because we said it when Edwards went, we said it when Bloomfield went. We need an experienced manager. We need a big personality. One of the small things that I clung to was, okay, I've seen Jack Wilshere, pretty much since he was a 16-year-old at Arsenal. Big personality. He's boring as hell. He's so uninspiring. It's like the media training has sort of kicked out all of his personality. He wasn't like that when I met him and interviewed him. Those interviews are going to be dropping, by the way. Someone got in touch and kindly volunteered to edit them. So they'll be landing eventually over the next month on the channel. He had a personality there. It's like he tones it down. And he in the brace, he was, kicking a ball around, having a laugh. I don't know where that is. Obviously, he's just a lad who just wants to, as one member of the staff said to me, he's just a local lad who's good at football. We don't need a local lad who's good at football. We need someone that'll bring fire, brimstone, rockets, and just shove them up people's arses. That's what we need. Don't need a lad who's good at football. We need that.
Time to start burning the ping pong tables.
Yeah. Like, take a fucking sledgehammer and just bash the shit out of walls. Damage some property. Scare some people.
Okay.
There's none. Well, put some fear into the players. Like, you are disappointing fans. You are embarrassing yourselves. Because these are good players, but they play like utter clowns. Utter clowns. Yeah. And the fact is, they're following you got to play functional football to get out of this division. We discussed it so many times. Lincoln, Stevenage, direct football. Just play to score goals, or you got to be really good at the football, like looking at Cardiff. None of that. We're obviously not good enough to play football. Can't create chances. So let's just play functional football for football's sake.
Yeah, I agree. Consistent football. That's the thing as well, isn't it? Like, you ain't getting out of any league, Premier League, Championship. You ain't getting out. You're
not getting. There's only one way to get out of Premier League.
Yeah, yeah, we did it. But you know what I mean. You don't get out of any league without consistency. I don't care what league you're talking about, so that's the thing, as well as everything else. Right, there's been about 1 million comments. Shall we have a quick look at those, I think, before we move on to our probably the burning issue?
Yeah, Martin Cawthorne says, you would find a way to criticise any manager. No, I wouldn't.
I mean, listen,
the fact that Jack's not learning from his mistakes.
If you watch the last 3 games against those teams, sorry to jump in on this because it's just if you watch the last 3 games and you think, look, me and Ollie were behind Jack Wilshere. We were probably the more pro Jack Wilshere at a lot of the fan base as well. But if you watch the last 3 games and don't pin any of that on the manager, then I don't know what you're watching. I'm sorry. So that would be my retort there. He's been, poor at making decisions that don't work. I mean, he's played Walsh and Saville in the middle again. We know how often that's worked. Never. And he's been slow to react in games as well. That and obviously all of the cracker at the end of the Burton game too. Look, I don't want to be in a position where we look for a new manager. I certainly don't, because I don't think that helps anybody.
We won't get it right.
Him to do well.
We won't get it
exactly. I wanted him to do well. I want Chris Powell to step up and do more as well, by the way.
What is Powell doing? He's got a team promoted out of this league before. He's a vastly experienced coach. Yeah, I don't get what he's doing.
one of the reasons we were both excited about the appointment is because it came with Chris Powell. I doubt either of us would have been so optimistic if it had just been Jack Wilshere and a novice as his coach. So that's the reason. So yeah, absolutely, his coaching team take it. And I mentioned earlier it's on the players too. But look, you can't perform as badly as we've done away from home in that tenure with the amount of time that he's had without putting some of the blame on Jack Wilshere. I'm sorry, you just can't.
Yeah. One of the benefits of doing this as well, podcast where all my stuff is recorded, you can go back and see what I said when Jack Wilshere was appointed. You can go back and see what I said when Bloomfield was appointed. I backed both of them. However, I did say Bloomfield at the time was the right manager at the wrong time. I stand by that. We needed an experienced head to get us out of that. Not a guy that had a season and a half at Wickham and 10 games at Gillingham or Chesterfield or wherever he was. Colchester. Always get those three mixed up.
Colchester.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Yeah, this is a phone in. We should get some callers in. We will talk about the 1885. Let's get our first caller in. Right. We have brought in Pete. Hey. Good evening, Pete. Sorry to keep you waiting, mate. As a reminder to everyone else, I will drop the link to call in. It's actually in the description of the video, but make sure you do call in and get your thoughts across. You can talk Port Vale, you can talk the 1885. Happy to take any calls. Right. Evening, Pete.
Yeah, how you doing, guys? It'd be boring if we supported Wickham, wouldn't it?
Well,
yeah, they've got a decent striker, haven't they?
Yeah. Before I talk about Wilshere, just very quickly, and you'll talk about it later, but I read the email. The whole Power Court process smells of brown envelopes being passed under tables at motorway services. You know, it really does, doesn't it? But I'll leave you guys to sort of pour over that. But let's look in isolation at the appointment of Wilshere then. So as an electrician, you have to serve, a 3-year apprenticeship. Same with a plasterer. Toolmaker, they serve an apprenticeship. Bricklayers. Wilshere's not served any kind of apprenticeship at all. And you know, you'll get the Luton Woke Brigade that will say, yes, but he's worked at Arsenal Youth and he's managed 2 games at Norwich. But that's not real in-your-face League One experience. I mean, if I applied for a job as brain surgeon, right, and I went for an interview, and the bloke said to me, what experience have you got? If I said, well, I've done a few head massages on my wife and I'm getting quite good at it, he's not going to say, great, can you start on Monday, is he? But that's kind of what's happened with Wilshere. I mean, and as a manager of a football club, it's not just about picking 11 players on a Saturday. In fact, that's the easy bit. You know, when I managed, a decent team, we won 9 trophies in 3 years. We were a good side. The hardest part of my week was ringing players on a Friday to tell them that they weren't playing. Not that they were playing, because you've got to keep everybody happy. You've got to keep them motivated. But, you've got to manage the knock on the door when a player comes in with a personal problem. You've got to be able to deal with disciplinary matters. You have to deal with unscrupulous agents.
Do you think a 34-year-old is able to do that?
Well, this is my point. You've got agents that are trying to negotiate contracts with you, take players out of the club, bring players to the club. But he's a 34-year-old bloke. He's been parachuted in from nowhere, and Luton Town is a big job, and he's not ready. I said it last week. If you stick with this guy, you'll get the same results because he's not served an apprenticeship. Robbie Savage is serving an apprenticeship. He's doing it in the lower leagues. That's how you do it. I mean,
he was at Macclesfield first as well, Robbie Savage.
Yeah. But here's a little quiz for you, right? So I'll read you out the basis of a CV of a manager who's out of work. He's 60. He's got the right credentials. Now, I'm not saying he's the man for the job, but he's exactly what you've just been talking about. So he's won 2 promotions from the conference. He's won a League 2 title. He's been in the playoffs 3 times. He's survived numerous relegation battles. He's always been loved by his players, respected by his players. He's brilliant with the media. He doesn't suffer fools gladly, and he installs discipline at all the clubs he's been at. And he's a brilliant man manager, and he's played at the highest level. That man, and I'm not saying he's the right man, but that man's name is Martin Allen. Now, imagine Wiltshire shadowing a manager like that for 2 seasons. How much would he learn?
Can you imagine Martin Allen at Kenilworth Road?
Well, no, I'm not
Seriously.
saying I'm not saying he's the right fit, but that's the sort of guy you need with that sort of experience. You know, this tippy-tappy football won't win us promotion. You know, how many goals on a Saturday are scored from a goalkeeper passing the ball to a centre-half, to him passing it out to a fullback? It comes backwards and forwards across the side of the pitch 20 times. It goes out to the winger. He puts the cross in, and a centre forward taps it in on the edge of the 6-yard box. About 4 every Saturday. You know, the law of averages would suggest that you're not going to win football matches playing that sort of football. You know, they don't. Most goals come from defensive errors, people flooding the box, and just, you know, something breaking or somebody getting on the end of something. You don't score Brazil 1970 goals every week. And that's what he's trying to do. And it's just not going to work.
Look at the Arsenal-Chelsea game today.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Exactly
Three set pieces. 3 set pieces.
Yeah, and also, exactly. You know,
Sanchez getting himself in trouble trying to pass it out. So even Chelsea, who, you know, have some of the best players in the country and some of the best players in Europe, are still not able to play that kind of football under pressure. So why do we think we can do that?
Absolutely.
At all places.
And it worries me that, you know, you look at that email and you see a reference to Wilkinson and Sweet actually doing their own scouting and recruitment. I mean, that worries me immeasurably, because they're the people that are making decisions about who comes in and who goes out and who's right for the club. And they've never laced a pair of boots, you know, so I just don't understand it. You know, we're going nowhere under Wiltshire, I promise you. And I'll keep coming on here and saying that. And if I'm wrong, fine, I'll eat a huge bit of humble pie. But I don't think I am. I just don't think he's the right man for the job. You know, he would win a world championship, like I said last week, for chewing gum, and that's about it.
Yeah,
you know,
a good comment here, but sorry.
Yeah, I would.
A good comment here is David Pleat was 32 when he became manager. He was actually 33 when he became manager, after Harry Haslam, but he was recruited from within. Yeah, his apprenticeship had been reserve manager for years.
That's the thing. That's the difference, isn't it? I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of these, like Sheehan at Swansea, his first managerial job in the Championship, but he'd been on coaching staff. He'd worked under Nathan Jones previously. So
in any walk of life,
coaching roles.
Yeah, in any walk of life, you have to serve an apprenticeship, don't you? But
did any of them have a documentary made about them though, with their coaching? No.
Well,
Jack Wilshere did.
You know. Well, he's a headline name, isn't he? He's been bought in. You know, we're Luton Town. Look who we've bought in, and it was the wrong appointment. And yeah, I would get rid of him now, and I'd get someone in, because we're going nowhere this season, are we? Let's be honest about it. Give someone 10 or 12 games to have a look at what's going on at the club. I mean, whoever comes in, you know, it's a bit of a poison chalice at the moment, isn't it? I'm not convinced that Bloomfield and Edwards probably did a huge amount wrong. It's just the club. The club's in disarray. You know, Edwards is doing okay now at Wolves, isn't he? He's starting to find his feet a little bit. But I don't know whether it's coming from above and they're being told how to play. I just don't know. But when you look at that email, there's obviously, you know, it's deep-rooted, isn't it? You know, all these people can't be shit at their job, but they seem to be as soon as they walk through the door at Luton Town. So there's got to be a common denominator.
Yeah.
Yeah, there has to be. But, you know, I'm not saying Martin Allen's the right the right guy. But what I am saying is, you need a guy with his sort of level of experience. But Sweet's never going to bring a man in like that, is he?
If you
Never.
look through all the managerial appointments, how many have we brought in that actually have, well, without pre-existing Luton Town links, any that have vast experience in the game? It's just one, John Still. Yeah, he's the only one.
That
Richard
didn't
Money
work out too badly.
Money, I would
exactly.
say as well, right?
Yeah. Well, who else?
So
Money.
Money. He played for Luton in the 80s.
But experience, but yeah.
Yeah, he was experienced. Well, he'd been at Cambridge for a long time as manager, had success. But yeah, well, we just haven't gone the experience route because the experience route is costly.
Even
questions.
Even if you look at Lampard, it's taken him 5 years to get it right. You just don't walk into a dugout and become a brilliant manager overnight. It very rarely happens, does it?
But a big part of that as well is the assistants that him, Rooney, like all of Rooney's success at Derby came with Rossignol as his assistant. Like, as soon as Rossignol left and went alone, Rooney's been terrible wherever he's gone.
Well, you may as well have a cardboard cutout of Chris Powell on the bench, to be quite honest. Because he was all smiles on Wednesday night, wasn't he? High-fiving everybody when we won and got through to the semi-final. But it seems to me when our backs are up against the wall and we've got to come up with something, they're just void of any ideas. It's almost like they're rabbits caught in headlights. What do we do now?
Well, yeah, we were saying we were very excited about Powell. Very excited. He's turned out to be a massive disappointment.
Oh,
maybe he can only do it at Charlton because that's where his heart is. It's just a job here.
Do we think, talking of Charlton really briefly, do we think we're a bit of a victim of Nathan Jones' success then? Because obviously he was a first-time manager. He'd been coached, so I'm not comparing him to Wilshere here as well, because obviously he'd been coached at big clubs like Brighton previous to coming to us. But he was a project manager, a young manager, and look what happened under him. Have we now just got it in our heads that that's the only model that can work for Luton Town as a result of him?
No, I don't think so. I think if you got... He doesn't have to be a chest thumper. If he's a student of the game and he's been around the game a long time, and he knows, he's a cool operator under pressure. He knows how to affect a game. He knows how to change the course of a game. He can read a game. Like I said before, he's a good manager. He's good with the media. I mean, when you listen to Jack Wilshere, you have to go and get yourself a pillow, don't you? Because it's so boring. It's just cliche after cliche, isn't it? We've got to work harder and we're all in it together and fuck off. Say something, that we can actually, hang on to and all collectively agree on and move forward together. But, it's so boring, and that's reflected in his football as well, isn't it?
It definitely is. Now, I mean, Pete, I was thinking more in terms of what, from the board point of view, the board seemingly are obsessed with the kind of brand of what Luton is and what Luton should be. I mean,
the Luton way, mate. The Luton way.
So, do we now think the board have got it in their heads? The Luton way is to hire a young, inexperienced manager, because that's what worked for us under Nathan Jones. Nothing to do with personality here, by the way, because obviously Bloomfield and Wilshere and Nathan Jones' personality are poles apart from each other. But do we think that's it? And we know how stubborn they are. We know how stubborn Gary is with kind of with everything really in terms of the next steps. Do we think we're really likely under him and under the current kind of directorship that we're ever going to see anything other than this kind of project inexperienced manager? That's kind of where I was going.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're probably right, because he's not going to rewind, is he, and say we've got it wrong 3 times on the trot now. let's bring in an old head. It's like I said last week. These guys are now being called coaches rather than managers. But Luton Town at the moment needs a manager, not a head coach. And unfortunately, all these people he's bringing in are now coaches or head coaches, aren't they? It's like I said before, it's not just about picking 11 guys to go out and win a football match. You've got to be able to do the whole package. And these guys can't do it. We've said it a million times before. It's all about double pivots and this and that and all this crap. Maybe it does need an old school guy to come in and get his hands on it and say, right, we're gonna strip it back to basics. Because if we carry on like we are, you might get lucky. You might hit on somebody who actually makes a go of it. But I would say if you recruited 10 of these young managers, 7 of them are going to probably fail, aren't they? You might get lucky and get 1 or 2 that actually make a difference. So the percentages aren't in your favour, are they? Really?
No, absolutely not. Pete, as always, you've made some absolutely stonking points. Appreciate you coming on, mate. And we'll see you at the next one.
Yes, mate.
Yeah. Say hello at a game. Say hello at a game.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah. Well, I'll if you're having a beer before the game, I'll pop over and say hello if you're in the tent.
Yeah. Oh, no, I won't. I'll never set foot in that tent. I'll always be standing off to the side. Never going to be in the Gary Sweet Pavilion. Never.
All right, mate.
Right.
You can't miss me. I'll have me I Love Gary Sweet t-shirt on.
All right. Have a good one. Have a great week.
Cheers. See you guys. Ta-da.
See you later.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah. Always good. Always good to have Pete on. Yeah. He talks so much sense. Yeah. So much sense.
I asked the question to Pete about whether we need to change things now. I mean, look, I don't want to change things purely because I just don't want to go through this whole circus of another managerial hunt. But I don't. I'm starting to run out of options in terms of the alternative. Stephen LTFC in the comments, we're going nowhere fast unless we change the manager who has no ties, with us, not afraid to go against the board and say, look, I need a budget for the players I want. While I tend to agree, I just don't see it happening. I mean, I guess that's the problem, isn't it? Is that my biggest concern is we just get another sort of slightly less experienced version of Matt Bloomfield and Jack Wilshere.
It's a conveyor belt coming out from St George's Park, pretty much. Just a conveyor belt, an endless conveyor belt of people playing sterile shit football, and they all play. They all have the same haircut. They all play the same shit football. They all have the same philosophy. They all say my philosophy is their philosophy is just the same as what Pep Guardiola was doing like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's all the same. It's all the same.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's an epidemic in football for that. Do you know what else there's an epidemic of is managers just having a brand, just trying to brand themselves into a style of play.
The Russell Martin.
From top down. I mean, look, yeah, the Russell. Well, I mean, look at what's happened to Russell Martin with it. Ruben Amorim at Man United was another good example of it. You see it all the time.
The 3-4-3.
Yeah, it's just generally. Anyway, Phil, pointless sacking Wilshere. Whilst it's the same person recruiting his replacement who will never recruit an experienced manager, a big personality. Yeah, exactly what I was suggesting might be a problem with it, and I think we're all in agreement there.
There might be an aha moment for Jack Wilshere where he might wake up in a cold sweat at night and be like, I need to change it. I can't keep playing this brand of football because it doesn't work. There's always a chance, when you're young, you make mistakes, but you can learn from them. And, self-actualization is actually learning from your mistakes. And let's hope he is a relatively intelligent man who can learn from his mistakes. And and adapts depending on the situation.
We said it about Bloomfield as well. Maybe one day he'll wake up and think, what's he got to lose by changing from the back three that we had before? And it just never happened. And despite that, he just ran it into the ground. I mean,
Bloomfield had success at Wickham. He had success at Wickham.
Not playing that system, which is absolutely baffling. But you're right. He had success at Wickham, and he did have success at Colchester. Eventually, kept them up after a slow start. Same with Wickham, right? But he's been poor with us, and he's been poor with Oxford. Have had enough of him as well. He's doing exactly the same things with them.
He's the type of manager you can bring in when you're not at risk of going down, so he can have like that free hit during the season, like he did with Wickham. Even Wickham were like flirting with relegation when he came in, but he kept them up. Then he had an off season to work with them, and then he started to actually get his philosophy through. But he came in while we were slipping so quickly. We were going to slide straight out the league. We did eventually. And there were improvements towards the end of the season. But it came too little too late. It took 12 games for him to get his first win or something. No, 8. It took 8 games. Yeah. And when half the season, over half the season's gone, you cannot, wait 8 games to get your first win. You can't.
Yeah, I think at Wickham as well, he's going to have far longer, isn't he? Because he was a club, club legend.
He was a club legend. He spent his entire career there, almost 500 games.
Exactly. You're always going to get more time, arguably. All right, Ricky Hill, the exception, I guess, for us, although that was partly down to the people at the top at the time, I think. But generally speaking, at most clubs, you're going to get a bit more time and patience from the fans if you're well loved. And very recently as well, I think Ricky Hill was slightly different because he came in, 20, 25 years after his career had ended. It's not the same thing. Whereas Bloomfield pretty much came straight in from being a player for them to coaching and managing. He was coach, wasn't he, under Ainsworth, I think.
He was a coach under Ainsworth, then he left for a year and then came back immediately. Right. Yeah. It's amazing. He spent his entire career at Wickham, but still lived like a 5-hour round trip away. That's mad.
He maybe just likes the car.
It's alone time to think about strategies and tactics.
What he's going to say in his post-match. He didn't need it. Right, anyway.
That's why it's so rehearsed.
Come on,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So shall we talk 1885?
I was going to say, it's quite a big email.
Yeah, it's a big email.
I've seen loads of stuff on here, questions-wise, on it as well. I just wanted to bring up one thing that came up in the comments quite a lot, questioning why be anonymous. I didn't know whether you wanted to have your say on that one, but it came up at least 3 or 4 times in the chat before we really got into the game.
So from my point of view, because there's a lot of information here, and it's written in a way, like having read the email, there's a lot of information there that intimates, and I said this yesterday as well, there's a lot of information that intimates they know. They're rhetorical questions, open leading questions, where they know the answer already. So, one, it's to essentially sort of like, well, we know what you did last summer, that type of thing. But at the same time, it's a legal thing because they don't want to open themselves up to defamation or libel or anything like that. And I see a comment here from Treyguard's Nightmare. I think a former board member may be involved. Which one? There are loads of bodies. What? Mike Herrick? Stephen Brown? Who do you reckon is involved in this? There are a few people. Who knows? It might not even be them. But whoever it is, they're connected. They know information, and these are important questions. Also, if you put a person to it, people will be focusing on the person rather than the questions. So I think in a way it's good that it's anonymous, because they've asked really important questions and background for this. Sorry for going on my soapbox, Ryman. So these it was a long email. The reason why it's a long email, and a lot of people I feel have been getting lost in the fact that how long the email is and the repetitive nature of it. Like I've had this sent to me so many times, and people are like, oh, well, you know, and I've been on Outlaws today looking at it, you know, the commentary. It's been very amusing and entertaining. The reason why it's very repetitive and some of the same questions repeated over and over again, because this was actually 6 separate emails that were sent to Paul Ballantyne, Bob Curzon, Kalish, Karadavra, and Rob Stringer. So it wasn't this big chunk of text. It was, you know, it was 6 separate emails. And yeah, there is some overlap and some repetition, but because some of the questions have relevance in the other sections. So, for instance, questions from the opening questions, they appear in section 2 or section 3 or 5 or 6. The way it's been sent to content creators and how I imagine it's been sent to the Trust and Loyal Luton is this. It's saying this is what we have sent over the course of 2 weeks to the board members. So, Shazam, here you go. It's all here, laid out for you. And the Trust have actually released a statement about this, haven't they? Yeah. Oh wait, hang on. Your audio has stopped, so I'm just gonna restart your capture because I'm very good at that. No need to go to. Well, there you go. I've done it. I'm that good. I'm that good, Ryman. So you can talk now.
And you've done it.
I've done it. Yeah, it's just like that.
Talk.
No need for the technical difficulties panel because I know what I'm doing. I'm very good at this.
Look at that. Straight on it.
Yeah.
Look, I think just from my opinion on it, and you've covered most of the points I'd have said anyway. Look, we have to remember that a lot of these. Firstly, absolute, kudos to the people involved who have clearly done extensive amounts of research to try and get information and in the hope of transparency, because we know it's not coming from the club. So it's a lot of work. Whoever's done it, clearly going to be a number of people behind it, but it's a lot of work in there. I would also say that there are legal ramifications if we're not careful as well. And people rightly so. If they're supporters of the club, that they've mentioned that they are, they're not gonna want to have legal proceedings. We're probably not talking about wealthy people like the ones that own our football club that can afford, libel claims or slander claims or whatever else that comes from it. So I think it's quite a clever way of putting that. It's a lot of questions, as you said, but a lot of really concerning points, really interesting points. I mean, we were going to talk about the second one in particular. I mean,
yeah, but they're all out there now. There are loads there are very worrying things, but obviously, one thing that we have discussed a lot, and it's things that I've made educated assumptions, let's call them, on stuff about the stadium. And this kind of backs up a lot of what I've been saying. Like I've said so many times, it's not pure altruism that they're deciding to build this stadium. Obviously, that the initial aim was to build the stadium, but there is a question that says, we've been trying to relocate since 1955. Why have we decided to venture into property development? I mean, that's an incredibly valid question. Another one that I mentioned yesterday that absolutely floored me was a development company offered to buy the site and develop the stadium. Why wouldn't that be an option? That would be an absolutely tremendous option if the overall aim, the initial aim of 2020 was to get us into a new stadium. The 2020 development, the 2020 initial mission statement didn't say we're going to move Luton Town into a new stadium and make a fuck ton of money. Yeah. It's something Stevie said, on the midweek catch-up. This is their chance at generational wealth. And when you look at the fact that Michael Moran and Gary Sweet hold 25% of the shares of the development arm, but Gary owns only 3 shares in the actual football club. It doesn't add up, and looking at this one, what qualifications do Michael Moran and Gary Sweet have in the construction industry?
I was going to bring that one up.
None.
Yeah.
They have they have no qualifications, no history, and
yeah.
Yeah. Go on.
Oh, you're right. Exactly what I was going to bring up. I was going to come back really quickly to Limac as developers as well, because the absolute hypocrisy of having a company there that are clearly using Luton and Barcelona for a form of greenwashing, I think it's called in some of the articles, while claiming to be the most environmentally friendly club, having a green kit and planting trees every time we score, even though that's not very often, while having a company that essentially strong arms governments in Turkey in order to get contracts and mass contracts at the expense of local people, local areas, in mass deforestation. If I would just encourage people to have a look at some of the articles that are linked into that. You don't need to look at all of them, and particularly the one near the bottom around all of the issues that they've been up against as well. They weren't considered, or at least according to these questions, to be the number one preferred bidder. It shows how far we've come from the point of being the first professional football club to offer the national living wage, and all of those accolades, and rightly so, and refusing gambling sponsorship and everything else that we did that was great, and stood our club apart, to just being yet another club that's being used in order to make money at whatever the cost to the environment or anything else. I mean, it shines a light on the priorities, as you said. All of this does, of the people at the top of the football club, or at least ask questions around those priorities too. In terms of the nature of the deals around Power Court, you mentioned a few of them, the legal cases that they're currently up against, like UK Power Network, as well as the Halo issue, questions around it's even being possible to be built and how much that's going to end up costing, screams of the
structural issues of the Halo, which
there
have been a few moments where I literally had to sit back, close my eyes, and try and clear my brain reading through it. The Halo one is one of the most disgraceful things there, because it's an award-winning. I remember when I've done the ground tour 3 times, and the first time I did it, it was a Father's Day gift from my wife, and that they had Power Court, like a miniature model of it, and like they point out, and this is the Halo. This is an award-winning structure. Okay, so it looks nice when modeled out, but at best it will it will cast shadows on the pitch that broadcasters will hate. At best, at worst, it might structurally collapse and kill a couple of hundred people. Who knows?
I'm not laughing at that. It's just ridiculous.
And how much? Like it says in here, upwards of £6 million has been thrown away at it. £6 million. That's like that's 2 Mads Andersons. Like, is this where the Premier League money has gone? Like, there needs to be accountability. There needs to be an audit, an open audit of where all the money has gone. Has the money been siphoned off, ring-fenced? I've said this so many times over the past year. I don't care if that has been the case. Just fucking say it. Say that is what the plan was. Be open. The fact that the stadium before we got promoted, the plans for the stadium, would have been covered by, we could have paid it. And now the costs have spiraled since, following promotion with another redesign. It's frustrating. Like, treating us like mugs, just building a shrine for yourself. That's how I feel. And Limac with their corruption and environmental destruction and treatment of ordinary Turkish people. Like, I don't know if you've seen the picture of, like, how did we not hear about this? This picture of Turkish workers, like, out front of Kenilworth Road that happened in December. How did we not hear about this?
Well, actually, while you're on that, there's a number of questions throughout about, is it true that people are being effectively silenced by the club? From Hatters Heritage to podcasters to the LTST, and basically being threatened with access for the same reason. When have we got to a point where we have ownership that are completely obsessed with controlling the narratives? And I keep hearing it on and on and on about, if you don't communicate with fans, and they'll fill the vacuum with negativity. No, look, if you don't communicate with the fans, it's because there is something to hide. Let's be bloody honest. That's the reason why you don't communicate with fans. You've got the same board of owners that we had in 2016 when we had every single detail of those plans being released all the time. We knew all of the nuts and bolts of the application. We knew what was going on with the MAL. We knew everything in terms of the council decision making and the timeline and everything else. And
they kept us so informed.
Nothing.
They wanted us on side for that. They wanted us boycotting them all. They wanted us writing letters to... Yeah.
They wanted to do all of that because arguably, at least at that point, that they had the best intentions, or maybe didn't have anything to hide, or at least at that point, the focus was purely on building a football stadium. But for the last whatever it's been, 3 years, particularly obviously 9 years since then, but 3 years, we've barely had anything. They obviously had to put the new redesigns out, although we've barely seen any of those. There's another thing. Where's all the detailed designs? They're building the fucking thing.
How are they gonna build it without a detailed design? Yeah, I'm not an architect, but I do know the basics that you need a detailed design to be drawing off. Otherwise, it's all the scale's gonna be all fucked up, isn't it?
Listen, if you need it for an IKEA wardrobe, you need it for a fucking football stadium. That's all I would think. but all of that, and just back to the communication thing and the kind of restricting. I did a little rant about the whole Alfie Doughty situation, about it being the tip of the iceberg. It demonstrates where we're at as a club. All of that stuff, the Hatters Heritage stuff as well. Hatters Heritage having to pay to have a museum put. Of needing to celebrate our heritage. They're apparently fans of the football club, right? They are. They're lifelong fans of the football club. David Wilkinson's followed Luton for God knows how long. Gary Sweet has as well. What about the heritage of our football club? What about fairness, the history of it? What about all the volunteers?
One thing I will say. Wilkinson, Sweet, Brown, Stringer, they have all been wildly supportive of Hatters Heritage with donations. The Eric Morecambe tracksuit, that was pretty much paid for by donations from them. Whenever Gary Sweet's done he did an appearance on something, like, to be fair to them, he did an appearance somewhere, he donated the entire fee to Hatters Heritage. And it's important because the hosting costs of Hatters Heritage website, which has thousands of gigabytes of data, it's mad. It's very costly. It's very costly, but at the same time, Hatters Heritage are having to, considering getting another funding round from the Heritage Lottery Foundation fund, whatever it's called, to actually kit out the museum. Yeah. And in all fairness, that should be footed by the football club, potentially.
Well, of course it should. It's part of
because it's pocket change for them.
Part of the new stadium. Well, especially when you consider the costs and everything else spiraling. 5% contingency as well, considering that, look, hey, there's been no confirmed delays, has there? So we're all expecting, aren't we, the ground to be open ready for the 2028-2029
No
season, right?
chance. No chance.
But we're all... If we follow Gary Sweet and Wilkinson's program notes, that's all I'm saying, right? That's what we've been told. No delays, and look, so
Yeah.
therefore, but even if there is, we've got this tiny contingency if it goes wrong. We've got a construction company that not only are at least accused of corruption, have had national security issues with
The
Scottish airports
government.
and everything else, protests. Yeah. But are also not there by all reports, at least by looking at the ground. Where's the actual stuff? Where's
Yeah,
the
where's their
FEMA
porter
construction
cabins?
crew? Where are they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
someone on
So
Outlaws, Crumpsall on Outlaws said, "Oh yeah, they're there. I've seen them. I've had a chat with them. Where's the proof? Well, how has no one else seen them?" Yeah. Well,
I mean,
he met them at
there's
an
so
away
many
game,
things.
not even in the director's box. Well, where are they? How come no one else has said, "Oh yeah, I ran into a bunch of random Turkish people at the game"?
At the away game,
Yeah,
not
at away
the
games.
site,
Yeah.
constructing a stadium. But look, I mean, there are so many things, and we'll keep talking about this. Obviously, we'll touch on it on I'm sure on our next midweek, whenever that is. Obviously, Wednesdays are going to be interrupted again by the trophy game. But
Yeah, well, we can
you know,
always do it like the day before or something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
We'll
work something out.
we'll figure out when we can do the
We'll work
midweek
something
catch
out.
up, because I'm sure Stevie's going to want a stab at this, and we got an exciting new addition as well to the
We do.
OK Football lineup as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Keep your eyes peeled in general. I believe that was a tenet of Luton Outlaws. Keep them peeled. You never know what's going to happen. One thing I will say about these the 1885. It's too many questions. But I think they gotta just get a top. One thing I've seen, like, people are like, oh, it's a lot of questions. It needs to be like a top 40 or a top 30. I mean, there are a lot of good questions, but it needs to really narrow the scope down to actually be effective. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that we need some headlines, because sometimes it's easy to miss out of all of those some really quite scary stuff in there. I mean, for me, I think if you haven't had a good read through, make sure you have a look at all of them. Some of them do repeat. In particular, sections 3 and 4 seem, some, and actually, look, sections 3 and 4 are questions we've all been asking for a long time as well. Not the nuts and bolts of it that we wouldn't have known. Okay, but things like, was Matt Bloomfield the only managerial option considered? Whose idea was it for Jack to appoint himself? This idea about Gary Sweet, whatever he says goes, and if it wasn't his idea, it doesn't happen. Those kind of things that we've all been suspicious of as well. But no, I agree with you. I think there needs to be some more headlines for it, but it's definitely worth reading through. But yeah, I mean, it is depressing to read. It is, because 2020 saved our club. They did.
Yeah.
Let's get it right. They saved our club from oblivion. Me and you would have been exactly the same here. We normalised shit ownership. It was just part and parcel of Luton Town, being lied to, having money stealed off in the name of owners all the way through. I think that probably the most consistent owner we had prior to that was probably David Kohler, and we'll talk about his vanity project later on, maybe. But the point is that we became used to it, and then we finally got taken to the absolute brink by ownership and the EFL and the FA as well, and they saved us. They absolutely saved us from that.
I'm not saying they're shit owners, and you're not saying they're shit owners at all. Like,
no, I'm not.
We do not forget what they've done for us. But one thing I think we agree on, correct me if I'm wrong, the job's gotten too big for them, but both on the football side and the stadium side. They've tried to run before they can walk with the stadium development, and that's been inkling we've had for a while. And the club has grown. Like, fair play to them. The club has grown a lot larger, and it's beyond the abilities of Gary Sweet now. It needs a proper chief executive to come in and restructure and redirect. But they
I
are by
completely
no
agree with
means
you.
shit owners.
That's
They are
exactly what it
Luton
is.
through and through.
No.
But
Well, I said it the other week. I said the biggest mistake they made is assuming that they can carry on with the same League One mindset they had last time we were in this division. I think I said pretty much exactly that. And
assuming
that's
they'd
it. I
pissed
think
the championship as well, you know,
yeah,
like with the
well,
straight back up.
exactly. Both of those things. Yeah, but you know, it's then the kind of insular isolation that they've had from other fan base as well. You know, I think that they had so much credit in the bank coming back down from the Premier League. It's unreal to think that we're in this position now, 2 seasons later, where we're talking about Gary Sweet needs to go. You know, question all these questions that have come out of it. It's unbelievable. But a lot of that is also down to not taking the fan base with them. We talked about communication. We were right behind them, and we would have accepted them making honest admissions of mistakes. I said it before about we have to have a full review of what's going on. Otherwise,
but it has to be a full review, an independent review. It cannot be the trust.
Of course it does.
It cannot be the trust.
Unfortunately, it can't be, but it should be. It should be able to be the trust.
Can't be though.
That's the point of it. No, I agree with you.
Yeah, but if it is the trust, they need independent people there to verify that they are actually being fully rigorous with it.
But this is the thing, is that, you know, that lack of transparency, that bringing the fan base with everyone on board, that's what made us great. That's the reason why we were so good all the way through the club, is that we were all together. Whatever happened, we were all together. And it's not just, you know, and it's not just what Gary Sweet said in the interview with Three Counties, just about winning or losing football matches. It goes way beyond that. And to suggest that Luton fans will suddenly forget everything, you know, that has happened over the last 2 years if we just start winning, not doubting that it would help, but it's not the reason we were so successful. But yeah, it's sad to see, isn't it? Really sad to see. But
and it's not going to happen either.
Some semblance of answers.
Yeah. Oh, here's a great one. J10 saved from Treguard's nightmare. J10 saved our club, and look how that ended up. People come in with good intentions, but intentions change. Yeah, well, from the original 2020 mission statement, there's actually a very good one here about the development. So many questions, blimey. So many questions. It's hard to find like exactly where it is. Yeah, I don't know exactly where it is, but essentially the question I'm looking for is, yeah, I mentioned it before. Like, why have we decided to go into the property development when property development wasn't in the initial 2020 mission statement? Like, when did that directive change? Like, is it because they saw a possible niche they could exploit to, like, you know, make their nut? As I said before, like, it's not pure altruism. And if it is indeed true that a development company came in and offered to build the stadium, providing they had the residential, why not? Why didn't they take that and negotiate a hard deal to make sure we own it? It's one of those. It's an onion, but instead of an onion, it's just a massive onion constructed of shit, and you peel back more layers, and as you get deeper and deeper into it, there's just more and more layers of shit. And it'll be interesting over the coming weeks to see how this is peeled back and put under a microscope. Yeah. Am I still here? Are you frozen, Ryman? That is the question. Are you frozen? Has your internet given up the ghost?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It did give up the ghost. Yeah.
It did. I was just saying the internet on my end's dying, so maybe that's a good time to knock it on the head, because we'll
talk about it. We'll talk about it on the midweek catch up. When's our next game? Is it Wednesday? Is Wednesday the 4th of March? Northampton. in the LDV Vans Auto Glass semi-final. I won't be going because essentially my seats were gone, and like me and my dad, we need seats for like access issues. So yeah, it was nice of the club to hold the seats for season ticket holders for a day. Smashing. Yeah, but you know, it'll be a nice day out at Wembley. Will be nice. But hey ho, never mind. Let's see what happens, and we'll figure out when we're going to do the midweek catch up. Keep your eyes peeled on our channel because we'll have a chat. We'll see when we want to do it. Maybe on Tuesday. I don't know. Maybe Thursday. We'll have a chat. We'll have a chat in the group, and we'll see where we land. Just keep an eye on our channel, and you'll see when. Any summarizing thoughts, Ryman, before your internet completely pops its clogs?
Yeah, it might have died already. Look,
no, you're there. You're there.
I think I'll say what I said before, is that from a fan base point of view, this is the time where we need to forget all the niggly differences, and we need to just, hold strong together, at least, in holding people to account or demanding information from the club, and whatever that looks like. So yeah, I think that's the key, because it's clearly not going to be the end of tough times for us at the moment, is it? It feels like there's going to be a fairly tough period to go, but we've always come out of it in the past, and I think we will do again. It's just going to be brace yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Luton fans should get that tattooed on them. Brace yourself, because so it's always the case, isn't it? Just one normal year. That's all I want. One normal boring year. Yeah. Oh God. Well, yes. Everyone keep them peeled, and yeah, we'll see you guys on the other side. Midweek catch up, whether it's on Tuesday or Thursday. Let's wait and see. Everyone have a great. Well, we hope you had a great weekend other than football, and have a great week ahead. Most importantly, come on, you Hatters.